That's all it took. You heard those first notes and you were 8 years old again, watching a brachiosaurus raise its neck above the tree line for the first time. Jurassic Park didn't just make dinosaurs cool, it made them feel possible. And here's the thing, it was more scientifically grounded than most people realize. Michael Crichton did his homework. The chaos theory, the genetic engineering, the ecosystem dynamics. A lot of it holds up, but a lot of it doesn't. And the parts that don't, they're actually more interesting than the movie. So today we're going to do something nobody has done properly. We're going to build Jurassic Park. For real. Using 25 science, real engineering, real biology, and real economics. And we're going to follow every consequence in order from the moment the first dinosaur is created to the moment the whole thing inevitably falls apart. Because it would fall apart. Not because of one power outage or one corrupt employee. For reasons that are way more fundamental and way more fascinating than anything the movie showed you. And at the end, we're going to talk about the one version of this that might actually work. Not in a theme park, not with T-Rexes, but the real-world equivalent of Jurassic Park that already exists and that most people have never heard of. Step 1. Getting the DNA. Let's start at the beginning. Before you can have a park, you need dinosaurs. And before you have dinosaurs, you need DNA. And this is where the movie's entire premise breaks down. Immediately, completely, and with no workaround. DNA has a half-life of 521 years. That's a measured, published, peer-reviewed number from a 2012 study in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B. It means that every 521 years, half the bonds in a DNA molecule break down. After 1,042 years, half of it's gone. And so on, compounding. In absolutely perfect conditions, the very last DNA bond breaks after about 6.8 million years. The last non-avians died 66 million years ago. That's 9 times past the theoretical maximum. There is no dinosaur DNA, not in amber, not in bone, not in anything. The math doesn't care about your movie ticket. The amber idea, the one from the film, was already debunked before the movie came out. Researchers tested it in the early 90s. The DNA they thought they found was contamination from modern microorganisms that had colonized the amber. The dinosaur DNA had been for 60 million years. But here's where it gets genuinely interesting. Birds are dinosaurs. Not metaphorically, literally. Every bird alive today is a living theropod dinosaur. Not metaphorically, literally. Every bird alive today is a living theropod dinosaur, the only lineage to survive the extinction event 66 million years ago, and they still carry dormant ancestral genetic code. Paleontologist Jack Horner, the actual scientific consultant for the Jurassic Park films, has been running a project called the Chickenosaurus since the 2000s. The goal is to reactivate dormant dinosaur genes in chicken embryos to produce ancient traits, teeth, clawed hands, a longer tail. In 2015, his team successfully gave chicken embryos dinosaur-like snout structures. In 2018, another team activated a gene that caused chickens to grow teeth, so the real version of InGen's genetic engineering isn't extracting DNA from amber, it's reverse engineering birds, walking backward through evolution to reconstruct what was lost. Assume synthetic biology has solved the gap. It's 2035. A private biotech firm uses AI reconstructed genome modeling to synthesize a 94% complete dinosaur genome from bird DNA and fossil protein data. They fill the remaining 6% with crocodilian sequences, the other living archosaur family. The result isn't a perfect T-Rex, but it's close enough to build a park around. This is the only science fiction in this block. Everything from here is real. Step 2. The bill. Let's say we've solved the DNA problem. Now we need to build the thing. And this is where the movie's other great lie gets exposed. The lie that a private corporation could actually afford this. The most detailed real-world cost analysis of Jurassic Park puts the initial build at $23.4 billion, with annual operating costs of $11.9 billion per year, every year. To put that in context, Disney World cost approximately $10 billion to build and generates about $7 billion in revenue per year. Jurassic Park would cost more than twice as much to build, generate less revenue because it's on a remote island, and cost far more to operate because feeding apex predators is not the same as feeding flamingos. A single adult T-Rex needs between 25 and 45 kilograms of meat per day. That's $250 to $400 in livestock daily for one animal. The park has at least a dozen large theropods. That's $1.5 million in food costs annually. For predators alone, the herbivores need tens of thousands of square feet of specific vegetation that doesn't exist in a Central American island ecosystem and has to be cultivated from scratch. The containment infrastructure is its own financial catastrophe. The strongest material currently used in heavy containment can withstand impacts of roughly 10,000 to 15,000 pounds per square inch. A T-Rex bite force is approximately 12,800 pounds per square inch. An adult animal slamming its full body weight against a reinforced wall generates forces we don't have standardized engineering data for. You'd be engineering in the dark with a 9-ton variable. The honest answer is that no private entity on Earth could sustain this financially. Not Elon Musk, not Jeff Bezos, not a sovereign wealth fund. The numbers don't close. John Hammond's famous line, "We spared no expense," is the most accurate thing in the movie. He couldn't have spared any expense. There was no expense left to spare. Step 3. The biology nobody talks about. Here's the problem that the movie completely ignores, and it's the one that would end the park before a single guest walked through the gates. Dinosaurs have been absent from Earth's biosphere for 66 million years. In that time, every bacterium, every virus, every fungus, every parasite on this planet has evolved without any selective pressure from non-avian dinosaurs. A synthesized dinosaur has zero immune response to any modern pathogen. the first bacterial infection from the soil, the first airborne respiratory virus from a staff member, the first intestinal parasite from any piece of modern livestock it eats. Any of those could be lethal within days or weeks before you've even opened the park, but the other direction is worse. Every large vertebrate carries trillions of microorganisms in its gut, on its skin, in its respiratory tract. Those organisms evolved alongside that animal for millions of years. They have never encountered a human immune system. They have never been tested against any modern antibiotic because they haven't existed in the living world for 66 million years. The Jurassic Park scenario that actually terrifies microbiologists isn't a T-Rex breaking through a fence. It's a maintenance worker flying back to Miami with a Cretaceous commensal bacterium colonizing his nasal passages. Something completely harmless to the dinosaur. Something no antibiotic has ever been tested against. Something modern immune systems have zero evolutionary history with. A staff member coughs on a Tuesday. By Sunday, you don't have a containment breach. You have a novel pathogen event with no treatment protocol, no vaccine, and no natural resistance in the human population. The real extinction level scenario from Jurassic Park was never the dinosaurs getting out. It was the bacteria. Step 4. The park is open. Now what? Let's assume you've solved the biology. You've solved the funding. The park is open. What does day-to-day operation actually look like? The first thing you'd discover is that dinosaur behavior is almost entirely unknown. We have fossil evidence of anatomy and biomechanics. We have zero behavioral data. We don't know how a T-Rex responds to stress, to captivity, to artificial light cycles, to the smell of diesel fuel and sunscreen. Every zoo that has introduced a new large predator into captivity has gone through a period of unpredictable, sometimes violent adjustment. With an animal 9 times the size of a grizzly bear and no prior captivity data, that adjustment period is a complete unknown. And then there's the reproduction problem the movie actually got right. Hammond's team engineered all female populations to prevent breeding. But as Dr. Malcolm points out, life finds a way, specifically because some theropods were closely enough related to birds to potentially undergo parthenogenesis, asexual reproduction documented in several modern bird and reptile species. You engineer females, some of them reproduce anyway, and every animal born in the park is one more animal outside your original head count. T's year 3. The park is barely profitable. Then the first unauthorized birth happens. Not a T-Rex, a Gallimimus, a smaller ornithomimid, 3 of them in the northeast paddock. The genetic team can't explain it. The ethical review board convenes. The board of directors faces a question nobody planned for. Do you terminate animals that were born in your facility, that 40 million people are watching on a live stream and have already named? This is the moment the park stops being an engineering problem and becomes a political one. And political problems don't have clean solutions. Step 5. The chaos theory was right. Ian Malcolm's chaos theory speech in the movie is usually treated as dramatic exposition. It's actually the most scientifically accurate part of the entire film. The core idea, that complex systems are fundamentally unpredictable over time, that small initial differences compound into radically different outcomes, and that the assumption of control is an illusion, is real mathematics. Edward Lorenz formalized it in the 1960s. It's called sensitive dependence on initial conditions. The butterfly effect isn't a metaphor, it's a property of nonlinear dynamic systems. Every major industrial accident in history, Chernobyl, Deepwater Horizon, the Challenger disaster, involved systems that were considered robustly engineered. Each of them failed because of combinations of small variables that individually seemed manageable and together proved catastrophic. The technical term is normal accidents, a concept developed specifically to describe failures in tightly coupled complex systems where normal operations carry unavoidable risk of catastrophic failure. Jurassic Park is the tightest possible example of a tightly coupled complex system. Power goes down, not because of sabotage, but because a storm short-circuits a substation, which happens at every major outdoor facility eventually, and the sequential dependencies cascade faster than any human response time can match. The fences don't just fail. They fail while the backup generator is mid-cycle, while the vet team is on the opposite side of the island, while the radio frequency the Rangers use is being blocked by the same storm. Malcolm wasn't being dramatic. He was doing the math out loud, and the math says the same thing every time. The longer you run a complex system, the higher the probability that an unlikely combination of events produces a catastrophic outcome. You don't prevent it, you only delay it. Step 6. The escape and what happens next. So the animals get out, not all at once. That's movie logic. In reality, the first breach would probably be a single individual. A juvenile, something smaller and faster, that found a gap in perimeter monitoring during a routine maintenance window. Island ecosystems are extraordinarily vulnerable to invasive species. The brown tree snake in Guam wiped out 10 of 12 native forest bird species after arriving as a stowaway in military cargo post-World War II. A population of introduced rabbits in Australia expanded from 24 individuals to an estimated 600 million within 70 years. Every documented invasive species event in island ecosystems follows the same pattern: exponential initial growth, cascading ecosystem disruption, permanent alteration of the food web. But here's the part nobody discusses. It's not the island ecosystem you'd lose. The real catastrophe is if any animal reaches the mainland. The Everglades Burmese python problem, which started with a handful of escaped pets in South Florida and has now produced an estimated 300,000 snakes that have reduced raccoon populations by 99.3%, is the closest modern analog. A theropod dinosaur adapted to a warm Cretaceous analog ecosystem would find modern tropical North and South America very hospitable. It's year 7, 3 prior containment breaches, all recovered. Then a Category 5 hurricane makes landfall. The island loses power completely. The backup generators flood. When the storm passes, perimeter survey finds 11 gaps, and 4 animals unaccounted for. 3 juvenile compies wash up dead on the Costa Rican coast 4 days later. The velociraptor is never found. The park closes 48 hours after that. Not because the animal is confirmed alive, but because nobody can confirm it's dead. A park that can't guarantee containment can't sell tickets. The investor calls start that morning. The island stays quarantined for a decade, and somewhere in the jungle outside Limon, something is eating the local bird population at a rate that wildlife biologists can't explain. The real Jurassic Park that already exists. Here's the thing, the closest real-world equivalent to Jurassic Park isn't a dinosaur theme park, it's something called Pleistocene Park, and it's already operating. In 1996, Russian ecologist Sergei Zimov began rewilding a 144 square kilometer reserve in Siberia with the goal of recreating the Mammoth Steppe, the massive grassland ecosystem that dominated the northern hemisphere during the last ice age. He's introduced bison, horses, reindeer, musk oxen, moose, and wolves. His son Nikita now runs the project, and they're actively working with Colossal Biosciences, a company founded in 2021 with $75 million in funding, to de-extinct the woolly mammoth using reverse engineering from elephant genetics. Their first target isn't a full woolly mammoth, it's a cold-adapted Asian elephant with mammoth traits. The thick fur, the subcutaneous fat layer, the cold weather metabolism, a functional mammoth proxy. The goal isn't a theme park, it's ecosystem engineering. Mammoths historically maintained grasslands by trampling snow and exposing frozen ground, which keeps permafrost frozen. As permafrost thaws, it releases stored methane, a powerful greenhouse gas. The real-world use case for de-extinction isn't entertainment. It's climate intervention. That's the real Jurassic Park, not an island full of carnivores. A Siberian tundra being slowly populated with proxy megafauna designed to stabilize an ecosystem that's been collapsing for 10,000 years. Less dramatic, no John Williams score, but real, funded, and already producing results. And if that project succeeds, if they can functionally reconstruct an Ice Age ecosystem using modern genetics, then the techniques that make it possible are the same techniques you'd eventually use to reconstruct anything else. The question of what comes next stops being science fiction. What if Jurassic Park was real? The DNA is gone. The costs are unmanageable. The biology would kill the animals before the guests arrived, or kill the guests via the animal's own microbiome. The chaos mathematics guarantee eventual catastrophic failure, and any escape event triggers an irreversible ecological cascade. But here's what all of that actually means. The reason Jurassic Park can't work isn't because the idea is stupid. It's because living systems are staggeringly complex, and complexity doesn't yield to ambition or money. Not even $23 billion and the best genetic engineers on the planet. What it can work as, what it already works as, is a model for something more honest. Not resurrecting the past exactly as it was, but using what we've learned from the past to manage the present. That's what Pleistocene Park is. That's what the Chickenosaurus project is. That's what modern conservation genetics is. And somewhere in all of that, there's a version of the wonder you felt when you were 8 years old watching that Brachiosaurus. Not from a theme park, from understanding what's actually alive around you right now. Because every bird you've ever seen is a living dinosaur. The park was never closed, you just stopped looking, and then, if this video made you think, hit like and subscribe to Roar and Claw. Drop a comment telling me which dinosaur you'd actually want to see in a real park, and which one you'd stay the hell away from. I'll be reading them.